Ordinary foot down on the concrete. Everyday grind, but my mind don't sleep. Gifted with a vision and a fire to keep. Holistic man, rising from the deep. Feet on the ground, hands to the sky. Connecting the dots between earth and sky. Seeing the world through a different eye. Holistic man, ain't afraid to try. God make me a holistic man. Lift me high when I don't understand. Guide my steps with a gentle hand. God make me a holistic man.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Holistic Man, Ordinary Men, Extraordinary Gifts. Listen, on this episode of the pod, we're joined by an artist and a creative by the name of Jeremiah Bligen, a John Islands, South Carolina native whose music merges biblical truth with real life experience. He's inspired by the sounds of hip hop, R&B, gospel, and even the spirituals his grandfather sang. Jeremiah has built a unique sound that is conviction filled and soul stirring. Since his first project, Before I Wake, listen, y'all, I love that project that he had. I still got it. I still bump it. It landed him on Rapzilla's top freshman of 2013 list. He's released multiple acclaimed projects, including When Ravens Cry, another dope project, Fighting Stance, and Inventory, which produced the award-winning single Wait. Beyond his artistry, beyond his lyrics, beyond the pen, he is a husband, he is a father, he is a servant, dedicated to using his music to bring culture, community, and people together for the love of Christ. And not only that, y'all, he my cousin, so I love this man. So I want you to welcome to the pod my cousin, Jeremiah Bligen. What's up, cousin?
Peace. What's good, man?
How you?
That was an awesome introduction, man. I'm looking around like, man, who he introing, man? Can't be me like that. Nah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir. Definitely, man. Listen, as I've, just been praying about men to bring on, you were one of those men that, popped up that I wanted just to have a conversation with, to share your story, share your testimony, because you're family, and I've known you for quite some time, and so just wanted us to just have this conversation and let other men know, what you're about. And listen, you're already known, like, bro, you a big name artist. Like, you ain't no little artist, bro. Like, you ain't no little artist. Listen, I remember when we was at Abundant Life. I don't know what Sunday it was. I don't think it was a youth Sunday or whatever. You put your track over the sound system, and the song was "I'm New." I don't know if you remember that song. You listen, homie, I'm new, and I'm saying.
It's a long time ago.
Bro, listen, when you put that up on the speakers, I said, yo, I need a copy of that. Listen, I had that on repeat for years, bro.
Wow.
Telling you, bro.
Man, that's crazy. That took me way back. I don't think I've listened to that song in years, man.
Really?
Years. I might have to press play on it after this interview.
Listen, bro, that whole album is fire, though. Like, that was the first album. I was like, you rap? And you're a Christian artist too? Bro, I need your music. I need it on the iPod. I need it ASAP. And when I tell you I bumped that for years, like, I was in college, bro. And people was asking me, who is that? I said, that's my cousin. That's my cousin right there. That's my cousin right there, bro. They was like, can I get a copy? I got you. Listen, I was your song dealer. I was, man. But yeah, man. But no, like, listen, people know you. You got music. You're like I said, even your visuals that you put out, your music videos, man, they're really visual. They're graphic. The songs, the lyrics, they hit hard, man. So, just, as we get ready to dive into this, I want to just kind of dive right into like your artistry. Like, what motivates you? What motivates you to use to rap, to be a lyricist, to become an artist, especially for the Christian, genre?
Yeah, I think that it's a twofold question with a twofold answer. I think that at a very foundational level, man, just a general love for music.
mm,
That ever since I was a child, I've had a love and passion for music across all genres, different genres. I remember being a preteen and flipping through the channels. And of course, you have your BET, and then
right.
you jump over to VH1 and MTV, and different styles of music would always pique my interest,
Yeah.
and of course, with rap and hip hop being kind of like my primary thing that drew me,
Mm,
given my generation, and so just from a love and desire to enjoy music came the desire to create music.
mm,
Just from listening to it and consuming it, I would rehearse it and practice it. And so one day I decided to replace the lyrics of somebody else with my own lyrics,
mm,
and then I started writing and never stopped. Right. So from there, it was just, based on who I am, back when I was a immature preteen that was misguided and full of hatred,
mm.
and unforgiveness, then my music reflected and mimicked the toxic things that I saw. You
Wow.
know, my music sounded like a misguided preteen,
Right.
right? But as I gave my life to the Lord as a young man, in my teens and high school, my music shifted
Mm,
because my heart shifted,
wow.
And so the second half of that question is the motivation to do music the way that I do it today is directly correlated to the life that I live,
Mm,
and my life is, God is center to my life. My
mm,
walk with Christ is essential to who I am. My pain, my struggles, my worship, my praise, my testimony, all of that is a part of my music. And I bring that to the table because it's who I am, no more than I was bringing trash to the table when I was 12, because that's what I saw all around me,
right.
So that really is the at its core, a love for music and then a passion and desire to seek and pursue after the Lord and his kingdom.
Wow. That's amazing. The fact that he gifted you in that way, just lyrically, creatively, to put the chords and the melodies
Yeah.
together. That's truly a gift. Not everybody can do that. I feel like our family in some way have some type of musical gift. Like I can play, and but I can't put together, I can't write. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I
That's
get it.
that's a specific gift that God has given you. And you saw that once you came into the kingdom and you allowed him to mold you, to shape you, to craft it, to make it even better to the point where that's all you want to do to give God the glory. You
Yeah.
know, and I feel like that sometimes even in that people look at that differently and say, "Oh, that's not worship." No, that is worship.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
worship.
It's funny, man, because I can put songs together, I can create, and I can produce things from scratch, but I can't play a single instrument.
Oh
So
wow.
it's really crazy how gifts work, that you
Yeah.
can play instruments and I can produce music, but I can't play instruments. It's just everybody's gifted differently, man, to the
Yeah.
to the glory of God. And I'm thankful. It's funny even that you mentioned Abundant Life and kind of church where we kind of met and connected and you heard my music for the first time. That was so vital and pivotal for me in my development, even as a young believer,
Mm,
as a young man and a young believer, to have somebody in ministry in a community in ministry that embraced my gift,
yeah.
affirmed my gift, and said, "Hey, this is worship." Because that, as easily as you said that to me, that's not something that's always said to artists, especially
Right.
rappers.
Yeah.
Even now, you still have your people that says it's the devil music. It's that's not of God. To talk about God with that medium through that
Right.
medium. And so to have it back then, you're talking 20 years ago, so for people to be that grounded and mature in their perspective concerning the arts was a blessing and a gift. So I'll always be thankful for Abundant Life in Virginia Beach for that. That when I stepped in the door and I had this gift and I was wrestling with,
Mm,
should I even do this? Where I stopped doing it for a few months to say, okay, this is something that I used to do,
Oh wow.
but I connected it to my old life. Let me stop doing this for a season, and then to have people encourage me to say, no, you actually can use that. That's a part of who you are, and all of our giftings, all of our talents, even the creative ones,
Yeah.
are to be used for God's glory, from acting to rapping to singing to dancing to flag waving to painting, all of it to the glory of God. And so I'm really thankful for that, man. It's really dope to even hear you remember that from back then.
Yeah, man. Like, and I feel like that the church has done so many of our young people disservice because their gift looks different, and they feel like there's no place for them in the church because they get stuck in their traditionalism. They get
Yeah,
stuck in their dogmas and their doctrines of
yeah,
how they interpret how things should be. Man, no, like you said, every gift is to be used for the glory of God, and there should be a place, especially in His house, for
oh yeah.
that to be demonstrated, for that to be welcomed, for that to be cultivated. Because because just as we have different versions of the Bible,
Hmm.
not everybody reads KJV.
That's right.
Not everybody reads New KJV.
That's right.
Everybody reads NIV,
Hmm.
because everybody has a different way that they connect and hear and read the word of God. Just as say they
That's right.
worship music and music in
Yeah.
itself. There's different genres that connect with certain people, how their brain works, how they, receive information, receive words. And
Yep.
so if the only way that, we give them worship music is through hymns and, you know, CCM or even gospel music, you know, there might be a whole, you know, like I said, a whole generation that we've missed
That's right.
because we're not willing to kind of take God outside the box
That's
and
right.
meet them where they are. And so that's why it was always so pivotal to me because, like I said, I didn't grow up on hymns. I grew up on gospel music, but then at the same time, like, I love hip hop, but I knew for a fact I couldn't be listening to hip hop in my house.
Right. Right. Right.
My mom, my mom and dad, they'd have yoked me up. They found out. I,
That trash off.
right. They would be like, "What is this? Who are you? You listen to who? Jay's who? Not Jesus. Jay who?
The
Nas? Who's that?" And so like so one like it's so funny because like even when I found out that there was Christian music, rap music, I
Mm.
was like, "Yes, God, thank you."
Right.
Because
Right.
as much as I love BB and CC Waters, I don't want more of you. I don't want more.
That's right.
Much as I appreciate Kirk Franklin and the
Mhm.
Walter Hawkins and all that, I'm sick of them
Yeah.
inside. I
It's not
love
our
them.
voice.
That's not our voice,
It's not our voice.
you
Yeah.
know. And so like like I said, when I found out about like cross movement, that I found about you had music, like my world was wide open,
Yeah.
And so
Makes a huge difference.
yeah, so I'm grateful to God that you continued in that. Because I was listening to you, bro. Like every time you was dropping something, I was getting it. I was in
Yeah.
there because I was like, and remember I was like, "Hey, bro, when you dropping the next day?"
Yeah.
Like, cause
Yeah.
I'm waiting. But like imagine how many other young people that you've touched, with your music because you didn't allow those voices to stop you,
Yeah.
from continuing on in that way. So you've definitely are and continuing to be a blessing, what I'm saying, to the kingdom of God. And so don't stop, bro. I'm telling you now, don't stop. Don't stop, bro. We need more. I know more is coming.
Oh yeah, indeed.
So let's switch. Let's pivot real quick. So you talked about, you said your music reflects who and what you're living now. So maybe just talk a little bit about where you come from and how kind of your life started, and then kind of go to the part where you gave your life to the Lord.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, like you mentioned, I'm from Johns Island, South Carolina. It's a part of Charleston County.
Mm.
So, um, it's basically a really, really small, tight knit community, surrounded by water. So it is really an island.
Oh wow.
You have to
Okay.
have a connecting bridge to get to the mainland of Charleston. The nearest mall was 45 minutes away
Oh
from
wow.
my house. Not that I went there very often because we were very poor,
Mm,
so it wasn't anything I was getting from the mall,
right.
right? And so I grew up. Our family struggled with poverty, in lack, and my father, he was an alcoholic, and my
Mm,
mother and my two sisters. So I'm the youngest of three.
okay.
So just growing up, man, we faced a lot of challenges because of that, with our relationship with our dad and our struggles, with my family, with lack and, poverty. And so I developed a deep rooted hatred and unforgiveness for my dad, even as a
Mm,
child, even as a 10-year old, as a 7-year old. I can remember having a very vivid understanding of my situation. Like you hear all the time people say like, "Oh yeah, we were poor, but I never knew it."
right.
I knew it. I knew it. I totally knew we were poor. Like, no way, buddy. These Payless sneakers that I'm wearing to school is testifying that I am poor. Like, we not deceived over here. Like, we definitely were extremely poor. These roaches are singing to me. The mice is chewing holes in the walls. We are poor. I don't wear Jordans to school. I don't even have Nikes, my friend. We have some boots from the Family Dollar that look like wheat tins, but they're not. And so I was acutely aware, that we were poor, and I identified my father as the source of that.
Mm,
And so, in addition to the fact that he wasn't spending time with me, and actually pouring into me and leading in the way that you expect fathers to do,
mhm,
for their children. He was disruptive. You know what I mean? He was a disruptive force because his drinking was so bad, And I see the pain that he's causing my mom. I'm seeing the lack that we're living in, and I'm pouring all of my hatred onto him.
mm,
I'm wearing it. I'm going to school. I'm getting into fights in elementary school. I'm getting suspended
oh, wow.
from school at elementary school for fighting, all the while kind of doing well academically, making the honor roll, making the principal's list in
Okay.
school, while getting in trouble all the time because I was mad,
Mm,
right? And I would get picked on, and okay, we gonna have to throw hands today. It's okay. Get in trouble and have to
right.
get in trouble at home, but that's the type of situation that I was in. I wore it,
Mm,
and so as I grew up and got into being a preteen, of course, as you get older and you have things surrounding you, and you have your culture that's promoting, oh, you should have money, when
mm,
Cash Money's on the TV saying bling bling and telling you that you should be a big timer, right?
right.
And they stunting on everybody, right? And they making you feel like you should have that, right?
Right.
Which is not just Cash Money. I just use them as an example. That's kind of the culture that
Mm,
that has been pushed to us. Like, you should have more than you have. You should have an abundance, and if you don't, it's not worth anything. You know.
mm,
And so taking in those messages and seeing what's going on, where we have, you know drug dealers and
mm,
drug fiends.
yeah.
You know, where I'm shooting hoops and playing basketball by myself on a court in the community, and you got drug dealers, you got the cops, you got, the fiends and everybody all around. So it's visible, right?
Right.
And so much going on around, you start to gravitate towards the negativity.
Mm,
You start looking towards those things as the things that are desirable, without a certain level of direction, from a man or a father in your life. Of
mm,
course, my mom would tell me better. My mom would drag us to church, multiple times a week,
right.
but still, that didn't stop me from clinging on to the form of masculinity that I saw,
Mm,
which unfortunately for a lot of us is street violence, or the street energy. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, and so while I didn't eventually go into the place of or selling drugs, I wasn't no drug kingpin or nothing like that. Thank God, right? But
Right.
people around me, when I look back at my life, even, a lot of my loved ones had to go through a whole lot,
Mm,
by way of that path. People that I grew up with, that I slept on floors with, that I shared meals with, that I hung out with a ton, but eventually, and I was with them.
right.
With them and around a whole lot of stuff. I'm like getting in fights in the streets after school like a dummy. You know what I mean? Like doing all of these different things, just getting caught up in the wrong stuff. And my sister, my oldest sister, she moved away
Mm.
from home, and she was actually in Virginia. And she was married and she had a family. And she would always worry about me. So she would call back home and talk to my mom about me. Ask about me. Where am I? Heard this about Jeremiah. What is he doing? She would check in on me all the time. And she would invite me and my other sibling to come and visit her during the summer sometimes or during a holiday. And so eventually, we would go and visit for one Christmas. It was like Christmas, or it was either Thanksgiving or Christmas
Mhm.
of 2003, actually. And that time when I came back, and this wasn't the first time that I visited her, of course, they were a military family. And so they moved to different places. So we had visited them before in different places. But this particular location was the first time. And I went and I visited, and, she kind of was like, "Hey, what do you think about coming to live with us?" And at first I was like, I don't know about that. At this point I got my little friends,
Right.
my homies, my crew or whatever that I'm rocking with. We're starting to do music, getting into all kinds of stuff and having plans to do foolishness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, Even then. And so I'm like, I don't know. I'll think about it though. But I remember going to church with her and receiving the word, and it touching me in a different way, and it connecting to other seeds that have been deposited in my life, as I grew up, because like I said, my mom always drug us to church.
Mm.
And so I can remember, a family friend actually put me aside one time because she heard me kind of talking about my dad, because I just like how it was very clear that we was poor, and I was very vocal
Mm.
about me hating him.
Oh wow.
And she heard me talk about it, and she was just like, she kind of pulled me aside and gently took me to the scripture. She
Mm.
opened it up. She actually went to the scripture, about children obeying your mother and father in the
Mm.
Lord, for this is right. Honor them,
Yeah.
right? That your days might be long on the earth. Like, she took me to the scripture and says, this should be your posture towards your dad, even though he's imperfect,
Mm.
right? Even though he doesn't have it all together, you are not right for having that posture that you have. And so I was young when she did that, right? Like probably, right?
Right.
But that seed, I remember it still where I was when she did it to this day. That seed there, the seeds of going to singing a choir and all of these different things. So when my sister pulls me into service and, they're praying for me, I receive the word or whatever, I'm like, okay, maybe I should, move.
Mm.
Maybe I could start over and really seek God and chase after God in a real way without distractions all around me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Mm.
Without my dad coming in the house and kind of blowing up our evening just because he had too many,
Mm.
that night. You know what I'm saying? And now we got to get into it with him. And now my whole mood blown. I'm
Yeah.
going to school pissed off the next day and all of this good stuff that happens. And and so I thought about it a little while. She convinced my mom. My mom didn't really want me to go. I was her only boy. I was
Right.
the last of the three.
The baby.
My mother, right? My mother loved me. You know what I'm saying? She worked herself to the bone to
Mm.
take care of us, and so she had pride in that. She loved her kids.
Right.
And so she wasn't so quick to just say, "Here, go," take my son.
Yeah.
So, but my sister worked on her and she prayed about it, and eventually she came around and said, "You know what? If he wants to go, he can go." And so I decided to go ahead and move. And it really was an intentional thing of, I'm going to release all of this stuff that I've been holding on,
Mm.
all of this hatred, all of this pain that I've been carrying, all of this life and the stuff that I'm starting to build and connect to here. I'm going to leave it, and I am going to seek God. It was weird because I remember crying on the bus, like on the Greyhound bus. And it wasn't like I was sad because I was leaving. I wanted to leave,
Mm.
right? It was a choice, but it was like I could feel something happening to me
Wow.
while I was on the Greyhound bus riding to Virginia,
Mm.
and once I got to Virginia, I just sought the Lord. I got baptized, got into discipleship class, So I had to, of course, you have to wrestle with, your old self and needing to put that in its place and learning even, and I'm 16 years old at this time,
Right.
right? So this is a huge deal. I'm leaving in the middle of the 11th grade at
Mm-hmm.
this time. And so I'm leaving. I'm going to a completely new place. And if you ever been to Charleston, it's a different culture
Mm.
in Charleston. So I'm going not just to a different place, but it's very much so a different culture
Right.
for me. So I'm going and I'm moving and I'm experiencing all of these new things and stuff, but choosing to pursue God, was really the reason why I made that move. And I'm thankful that he walked me through the process. Hey, look inside of your heart, evaluate how does this actually work?
Mm.
That you don't get to carry around unforgiveness. You have to make a choice, a conscious decision over and over and over to forgive, because just because you forgave him doesn't mean he's going to change.
Right.
Because it's like, oh yeah, I forgive him. I'm gonna let all of that stuff go. Okay, so when he act ridiculous next week and my mom calls,
Do you still
as a
forgive
as
him?
a 17-year-old, oh, you gotta stand on that. You want to stand on business for trash. You gotta stand on your business for spiritual. Stand on your forgiveness. Stand on that. And so walking through that process as a youth, of going through discipleship and learning about the things of God and really walking with God and becoming to know him as a father,
Mm.
to actually have him teach me in
Mm.
his word, you know what I mean? To walk me through and reveal things to me in the text that matured me. It was very much so like a fathering
Mm.
that God has done for me in a way that I had never experienced before. And so that shift changed my life naturally and spiritually, for sure. So I'll stop there. I know
No,
that was
that was good. No, that was good, man. No, like to hear that, you know, to know that you didn't have that example of an earthly father, but then you knew that the life that he chose was having an effect on you, and then God using that to bring you to him and allowing him to show you, hey, you're still mine and I love you and I'm going to father you the way that you need you
yeah,
in order for you to become the man that you need to become.
that's right. That's right.
So the question I want to ask even that, so as you were, okay, so now you've left, you've made the decision, you got baptized, you in the thing. So knowing the history that you have, the example of manhood that you had, who or what, I know you said God was, fathering you and kind of in it, helping you through the scriptures and teaching you and nurturing you in that way. But was there a biblical example on earth that modeled biblical manhood for you?
Absolutely. And so there are always feel like God always provides us what we need,
Mm.
even if the source that should provide it for us or the source that we expect it to come through doesn't end up being the medium that he uses. If we're open and sensitive to what he has
Mhm.
for us, he will provide it through different means. And so it wasn't just one person; it was multiple people
Wow.
that I observed over the I want to say the first 3 to 5 years of my walk, and even still to this day that I can look around and see. But
Mm.
especially in those formative years, and I looked around and I saw men
Yeah.
like in their homes, like starting with my brother-in-law,
Mm.
that he welcomed me into his home when he didn't have to,
Right.
right? And when I got there, he treated me exceptionally well. He didn't treat me like a second class citizen,
Wow.
never disrespected me. He never raised his voice at me.
Wow.
He
Mm.
never did anything that I would define as outside of the character of God, of a godly man,
Mm.
to me, ever.
Right.
And so I watched him primarily show love to me, but then I also watched him serve his family,
Mm.
which was important. I saw him work every day, and I saw him do things around the house
Mm.
all the time. Saw him spend time with his kids
Yeah.
and his wife. I saw him take the family to church
Mm.
routinely every week,
Wow.
pray with them. I saw all of this stuff firsthand from him and being in his home. And I looked across. There was another gentleman in Bible study who had actually led a Bible study about the matters of the heart back then. He was a pharmacist.
Mm.
And so I saw a different kind of professional working, having a high powered career,
Right.
the demanding career. He was married as well, but I saw him devote his time and dedicate his time to lead us
Mm.
as a youth group, to walk us through a book, to teach us, to pray with us. I saw him dedicating, sacrifice his earnings
Mm.
to help the ministry go forward.
Wow.
So again, another examples, and it was plenty of those, all around that I'm looking around and I see representation in a way that I had not seen it before.
Mm.
And let me be clear, it wasn't that growing up there were no men around, because
Right.
they were, right?
Yeah.
There were obviously men around, and some of them had families and some of them did their thing in their families, but it wasn't easily observable for me,
Mm.
right? Outside of really my best friend's father,
Mm.
who really kind of took time to, show me fatherly energy, you know what I mean, in a way
Yeah.
that nobody else did, you know, outside of him, nobody else really did. They didn't get that close, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
to really show, for me to observe how they walk and how they move. And they weren't like kingdom men, you know what I'm saying? Like, but in this context, I was around men of the kingdom, who had God as a priority and as a driver in their lives and how they actually do family,
Wow.
and so being able to observe that is a lesson for me. That's how I learn. And I'm self-taught in a lot of ways,
Mm-hmm.
but just because I'm self-taught doesn't mean I'm necessarily the teacher. I'm learning by absorbing all of these things. I'm like kind of using you as a model, and I'm taking my notes, and I'm kind of going back and say, okay, I see how this goes. I see what works. I see what maybe doesn't work,
Right.
and that did, that's no different than sitting in a lecture in class. And, you gotta observe it and you gotta take it in. And then you have to reintroduce yourself to even the content that you get in the class to see how do you process this the best,
Mm.
how do I need to go over these notes to learn it? So it was no different in life. So I absolutely had those early examples as well.
No, that's dope. Because the Bible says iron sharpens iron. And like I love what you said. Like God puts the right pieces in what you need when you expect the source to give it to you in that way. And for you to get that, from your brother-in-law, you know,
Mhm.
that and that was a daily thing. So that's hours upon hours, days, weeks, years of you getting that type of fatherly love from someone that you would probably like, kind of, he was kind of defensive at first because he
Mhm.
was like, I don't know who you is really for real. And
Mhm.
then for him to have that experience with you, soften your heart even more,
That's true.
to God and then to men and what that looks like. And like, I think you hit something so great. You said he did stuff around the house, you
Mhm.
know, and because for men, we're like, listen, we go to work, we come
Mhm.
home, we watch our shows, and we don't do nothing
Mhm.
around the
Mhm.
house. And I think that's key. What we need to break that stereotype because while we expect the wife to do certain responsibilities, yes. But if we are to be the leader, there are certain things that we have to lead in
Correct.
all the
Correct.
way around. You know what I'm saying?
That's
And so
right.
for you to see that at a young age, I think that's so profound because I never would have thought that.
Mhm.
You was like, he see the stuff around the house. Like, what? Okay. Because that changed and shaped a little bit of what you thought a man
That's
should
right.
be
That's right.
to his wife, to his kids,
Mhm.
take him to church. I read this. I think there's a stat, and it's out there. They were saying that, if the man in the home takes his family to church, they're like 99.9% of the time, that family is going to get saved, come
Mm.
to salvation. I know there's like, I'm just kind of maybe amplifying the stats,
Sure.
but I'm just saying, but the stats, the percentage is way higher when the man is taking the lead role in making sure his family is getting the word of God, going to church. He's modeling that. He's being that example versus a home where, the mom, we love the moms and grandmamas took us, took their kids to church and things of that nature. And we love them. But when it comes to how God has ordained it, when the man is leading,
It matters.
it matters.
It does.
And that's so vital.
And I think that it's important because when our mothers or our maternal figures, whether it be aunts, or grandmothers, or whatever the case is, when they teach us or they rear us in specific ways,
Mm,
it may work for us as children,
yeah.
but as young men, we always grow away from certain things
Yeah.
that our mothers show us because it's like, well, I'm a man now. Like I ain't doing what my mom, I'm not going to do what my mother
Yeah.
did. I'm not my mother. I'm not a woman, so we
Yeah.
gravitate away naturally. It's
Yeah.
not like even necessarily an intentional thing. It's just a nature thing
Yeah.
where we kind of move into something different and without examples to show us like, hey, you actually are growing into manhood, but
Yeah.
you don't grow away from your faith.
Right.
You're not growing away from that aspect of discipline and devotion and routine. And so having those examples of godly men that are doing those things to show you, oh no, you grow into faith as a young man and it
Yeah.
stays with you and it's masculine to do so.
Right.
Right. That's how church becomes for men, right?
Yeah.
By having men and having men be present and leading and doing things.
Yeah.
So no, absolutely, absolutely important.
So with that kind of shift, how has, when you talk about masculinity, how has your view of success and masculinity kind of evolved as you matured, even at that young age, but even to where you are now?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that definitely, I want to say the biggest leap was kind of before, as a youth, you always look to materialism because that's
Mm,
our culture.
yeah.
You identify success based on what you have and what you're able to obtain and show off for other people. But once I really began to seek and pursue after God, and the things of God, my mind shifted.
Mm,
What was most important to me shifted. So my criteria for success had to change.
mm,
Uh, So my life now doesn't become a vehicle for me to just get as much as I can, do as much as I want for myself, and measure my success based on those things. But now my success is okay. How am I being faithful with what the Lord placed in my hand?
whew,
With my gifts,
that's
with
good.
my resources, with my relationships. How am I being faithful with
Mm,
what he placed in my hand? And that may look different in different seasons.
mhm,
So the journey as a believer, right, isn't necessarily shifting from, oh, lusting and after stuff. It's more so about giving myself grace
mm,
and having wisdom to know this is the season for A,
mhm,
not B.
yeah.
This is the season for B and not C. And that's okay. Find your faithfulness no matter what season that you're in.
Mm,
Trust that God is with you no matter how you have to walk through this season. Because he knows what he put in your hand and he's the judge ultimately. He
yeah.
holds the rubric to grade you according to faithfulness.
Mm,
So sometimes, you'll put these expectations on yourself
yeah.
when it comes to ministry and the things, the good things, and they're good things, they're good God things
Yeah.
that you may want to do, that you may desire to do, and hope and plan to do. And when you can't do those things, or
Mm,
when seasons happen that takes you away from those things, there comes condemnation,
yeah.
right? then there's a spiral of depression that could happen.
Oh yeah.
Because you're not being productive in the way that you hope that you would be.
Yeah.
And so you run into these obstacles and challenges internally, because your criteria for success is still based on everything that you want to do,
Mm.
faithfulness to what you have in your hand to do and what you're accountable to do in that moment. Because we're not God,
Yeah.
we're us. So we're limited. We have limited energy, we have
Yes.
limited time in every day. You can't do everything,
Yeah.
and so the journey of navigating success as an adult
Mm.
has been finding faithfulness and understanding faithfulness no matter what season that I'm in.
No, that's good. I think that's a bar. Being faithful with what you got, faithful in whatever season that you're in, because Jesus, God's gonna say good and faithful
Hmm.
servant. You know, He's not gonna say good and strong or powerful or gifted.
That's right.
It's
That's right.
faithful servant. That is so key. And I think we as men, like you said, we get so distracted because we get Superman syndrome. We
Mhm.
want to save everyone, do everything because of XYZ, but there's only 24 hours in a day,
That's right.
7 days
That's
a
right.
week, and
Mhm.
it's so funny that that's why we have to renew our minds. It has to be transformed because what we think is important and vital, God doesn't find
Mhm.
important or vital. And
Mhm.
that's where we get messed up. And that's where a lot of I think you said, a lot of our agitation and our frustration comes into play because we're looking at our kingdom, what we can build
Yeah.
versus versus using the tools and gift to build and advance the kingdom that's already here, that's already eternal, you
Mhm.
know. And I think that is so key, when it comes to masculinity, that, we as men have to be men that understand the pace of God and how he moves and how he speaks
Yeah.
and what our actual assignment is, you
Mhm.
know. you know, because not every assignment is going to be flashy.
That's right.
It's not going to be in the front. You're not going to be on stage. You're
Mhm.
not going to get likes. You're not going to get a whole bunch of retweets, all that. Your season might be, your assignment might be just to love your wife and kids.
That's right. It definitely is that.
I mean,
You know what I mean? Yeah.
but then
Right.
like,
Right. Right.
people throw that to the side
Right.
because they get this flashy new toy over here,
Hmm.
and they say, "Oh, I'm getting the love, I'm getting affection, I'm getting flew out to come do X, Y, Z,"
Hmm.
and then your family is suffering, done.
Shamble.
You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And
Yep.
so that's why I think that, wow, that was so key. Faithfulness in whatever season that you're in, and it's stewardship. Being a man is nothing but stewardship.
Yep.
You look
Yep.
at Adam and God. God created everything and then put man in the garden and said, "You take care of this. Steward this.
Yeah.
Name everything here. I trust you enough to name everything, to take care of everything. Steward this. Oh, wait, I'm gonna give you somebody else to help you. Steward that faithful too."
That's
And then
right.
and then that's when Satan came and was like, you know what? I'm gonna break this up because I'm tired of this faithfulness and
Yep.
stewarding of this good God stuff. Let's break this up because I'm sick of
That's
it,
right.
you know. And so we as men have to be on alert in that way.
Yeah.
So you talked about a little bit, the the faith challenge of, about what success is and masculinity. So once you've kind of grown, if you matured, you're moving along in your walk as God is taking you, what has been one thing that has been such a faith challenge for you? Like, what is the one thing that God has, what is the one thing that challenged your faith to the core, to the point where it's like, God, if you don't show me how to trust you in this, or even say how to be
Yeah.
faithful in this, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think there are a couple of things, but the biggest thing has definitely been, ironically, fatherhood.
Mm,
And I think that, for many of us. I think
Woo,
that, and
Jesus.
I don't think that that's unique in that the vehicle that we come to God in, it's usually the things that set us up for our faith to be tried, because it comes along with a certain set of expectations that is built upon God providing something for us already.
Mm,
And then we grow accustomed to his provision and his grace and his mercy to us. And then when there are seasons where we don't feel like our life circumstances align with those expectations
yeah.
and what we know him to do and have been to us, our faith gets shaken to its core.
Mm,
And so for me, when I look back and I remember, not having a father in my home that was actually present and had a relationship with me, but was destructive, and
hmm
coming to God in faith as a father and having him grow me and mature me, being Abba Father who art in heaven. Naturally, the progression is I, want to be a father and have a family and love a wife and do the things in the right way that honors God, and see my seeds grow and be
mm,
present for them and go to all of the events and
right.
be present to everything and go to every practice and raise them up and teach them everything that I know. I want to be all of that stuff, that I never had.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you have situations where your experiences don't line up with that
Mm,
hope in that dream, in that hope and dream is something that's foundational.
yeah.
This is not, I want to be a millionaire. This is not, I want to win a lottery, although that would be nice.
Yes.
But
We
this
do
is
here.
not, let me get the 400 million,
Right.
right? This is not that. This is be fruitful and multiply,
Mm,
right? This is God will bless your seeds, right? Like the fruit of your wombs blessed. Like this is a foundational thing,
yeah.
that we built expectations on. That's not wrong,
Right.
right? And so when that becomes shaky and now you look around and you have special circumstances
Mm,
and you have special needs and you can't teach in the way that you hope that you would,
mm.
that the experience in the walk is not a linear one. It's not one. It's not going in a straight line in the way that you hope. It doesn't line up with the way. And this is not unique to me, right? This could be anything, when it comes to parenting.
yeah.
What that people have to deal with and struggle with all the time, where it doesn't end up the way we thought and we hope for people that we love. So struggling through like God, I prayed. I did all of the things that I did before. Prayed about it. I fasted on that thing. I
Yeah.
prayed again. Fasted again. I sought counsel. I prayed over them. I anointed them. I did this. I didn't do that. I think I earned something.
Mm, wow.
So that expectation betrays us
Mm,
because we think that because of who He is, because God is good,
yes.
because God is love,
Yes.
because God is merciful, because God is gracious to us. He is. It's an indisputable fact. He just is. Because of those things, we expect certain outcomes.
Mm,
If you don't get those outcomes, it shakes us, and it shook me.
yeah.
And it's not something that you wrestle with once, and then you pin it to the mat 1, 2, 3, and it's over with. It's a constant wrestling. It's a constant striving and working out your salvation.
Mm,
It's a constant seeking God as the anchor and source of everything, to know that, what, I'm going to trust you,
yeah.
and I am going to be faithful to what you have called me to do and be in this earth, primarily in my own household.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that you placed in my hand. And then out of that will be the church, and out of that will be the world.
Right.
And so I'm going to trust you, even though it hurts, even though I don't like this, right? Even though I
Right.
don't like it,
Yeah.
doesn't feel good, I'm going to trust you, and that echoes throughout the scripture. We find believers, men and women of God throughout the scripture that's struggling through, that's wrestling through their circumstances in
Yeah.
light of who God is.
Right.
And one of the things that changed me, it changed me deep to my core, was John the Baptist.
Mm.
You know, that when John the Baptist here, he's out in the wilderness preaching, prophesying of the one who's to come. John the Baptist, who, and we read his story of, oh yeah, he was in the womb, he leapt in his mama's womb.
Yeah.
I'm sure he heard that story more than we have, right? His mom telling somebody about that story.
Right.
You know, this is John the Baptist, who
Mm.
even his birth
Yeah.
being related to the Messiah and being born and then going into service as an adult,
Mm.
being reared and brought up in Hebrew tradition, understanding what the Messiah means to the people of God and ultimately to the world,
Yeah.
having expectations like many Jewish people, like many Hebrews did back then, the expectation of the Messiah that when he comes, he's going to topple this thing all over.
Mm.
Rome, you may have us now, but you're not going to have us forever, because
Come
when
on.
the Messiah comes, this thing is going to be through.
It's done.
They got expectations, and those
Mm.
expectations were based on what? The past. It was based on God showing up in their lives over and over and over again.
Mm.
Cloud, a pillar of fire, seas parting. When God showed up for the Hebrew people, it was in a tangible, earth-shaking way.
Yeah.
They had feasts to commemorate it.
Mm.
They had
Right.
Passover to remember this. They were constantly reminded of how God showed up in their life.
Yeah.
So the expectation of when Messiah was coming in alignment with what Isaiah prophesied, what the Psalms saying, what these saying, what that saying, what our lived experience with the Father was. I expect
Mm.
that when the Messiah comes, it's going to mean something specific for us.
Yeah.
And so when you have John the Baptist now see Jesus come, and he's like, oh, okay, he's here.
Yeah.
Or if you have John the Baptist see the dove come down and hear the audible voice from the heavens open up saying, this is my son whom I'm well pleased. Oh, he knows it's on.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, here we go. Here we go. So now I'm about to go pop off. I'm telling Herod, you sinner, you out of line, my guy. You know, like, bro, you better repent. Like, you got all this foolishness around, the Messiah's here. I'm joking, but you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
he's speaking the truth as he always did, but I'm sure he had more boldness, more confidence
Yeah.
because of who God was and because he knew what time it was.
Mm.
And so when he does, he knows that what time it is. Now he's in prison about to lose his life.
Yeah.
And you have Jesus across the way, literally sending word to people who come to advocate for relatives to be
Mm.
healed. And he's sending a word and healing somebody who's not even present.
Wow.
You have Jesus around the way, having people drop through buildings who can't even speak, who get
Mm.
dropped down by their friends, and healing them because of the faith of their friends.
Yeah.
Healing lepers and the lame and the blind see. You got Jesus right around the way, who he baptized, who he did all of these, he knows, but yet he's in prison.
Wow.
He's locked up. His circumstance didn't align with his expectation. And that led him to question. It led him to question and say, hey, you go back over there while Jesus is doing all of this stuff, and you ask him, is he the one or shall I look for another?
Mm.
That's exactly what we do.
Mm.
Is he the one or shall I look to another? Am I just following this thing because this is the vehicle that brought me from where I grew up? Is this just the thing my mama taught me when our grandma drugged me to church and exposed me to? Right?
Yeah.
Are you really the one or shall I go look for another? Do I need to go try West African spirituality? Do I need to go try Islam? Do I need to go try atheism, secular humanism? Do I need to go try all of these different things, or are you the one?
Yeah.
Because I thought that the one meant all of this would be done with.
Yeah.
You would come through for me. So he sends word. Are you the one? Right? And
Mm.
Jesus was gracious with him. I think he was gracious with him.
He was.
because he could have just said some other things to him, but he was gracious to him. He said, "You tell him what you see.
Mm,
All of these, the works, all of the fulfillment of all of the promises. You tell him all of the things that you see. You tell him that I am,
mm,
and blessed is the man who is not offended by me.
mm,
That you are not blessed is the man who's not offended by me, meaning that you've gotten over yourself. Because I am not moving the beat of your drum.
mm,
God's not offending you because he's not doing for you what
mm.
you want him to do.
Wow.
Even though what you want him to do is a good thing. John the Baptist wasn't asking Jesus to make him rich or make him a king.
Right.
He just didn't want to die off the whims of some random woman
Right.
that Herod is having fun with, right? Like
Yeah.
he just wants to like, hey, can you just get me free right quick?
Right. Can you open these prison doors
But
real quick?
right. But in his heart though, but in his heart, his pride was flaring up. His pride was elevating him over the will of God in what God owed him because of his time in the wilderness, what God would do in his expectation of God. And so Jesus told him, "Blessed is the man who's not offended by him." And I had to process that for myself.
Mm,
You're gonna be offended because God's not doing for you, he's leaving you in prison?
wow.
Or are you going to carry your cross
Mm,
and follow him? Even though that ends up with you being hung upside down on that cross and crucified,
I got.
tarred and feathered,
Mm,
stabbed and stoned, burnt alive and fed to lions, hanging from trees, right?
yeah.
Or are you going to trust me
Mm,
and believe because this place is not our home? Because whatever kingdom that you thought would be established here on this earth, that's not that's not the thing.
mm-hmm.
That's not the point. The point is to be with God
Mm,
forever.
yeah.
And once you lay hold of that, at the point of it all is to be with God forever. That's the point of heaven.
Right.
Yeah, there'll be no more sickness. Yeah, we're probably gonna have superpowers. Yeah, yeah, right. We're gonna have the best food and have the best dances, and we're gonna have a blast. But the point of that is that we get to be in the presence of the Almighty God forever.
Yeah. No, that.
And, and, and that's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point. And is that enough for you?
Mm,
The hope of that is the hope of that enough to keep you where you need to be.
right.
And that doesn't mean that, there's no here and now, because there is, right?
Yeah.
Of course there is, right? Again, this is all based on expectation of him being gracious to us,
Right.
of him providing for us, of him doing things in our lives. So there is a here and now that we live. But when you strip all of that away, when all of that's burnt to a crisp,
Mm,
will you stay? Be you staying on business, right? Will you be offended by him
mm,
and run away? And so that changed my life. That changed my life again, and so I am living today in light of that message.
wow.
And I'm thankful. And so I'm thankful for the grace and the mercy of the Lord, that even in the face of doubt and disappointment and pain and struggle that seems never ending,
Yeah.
that he's with us, and that he is still providing in a very real way. That he's still providing in a very real way. Even when that provision doesn't look exactly like how you want it to look.
Mm,
Still provide. Still provide.
yeah. No, that's good. Listen, you took us to church. I preached a whole message. bro,
Hey,
you know you was a preacher too. God,
this is holistic pod,
it
man.
is. No, that's it. That's good. You know what I'm saying? And wow, I don't even. Whoo, boy, you said, will you be offended? Blessed is the man that's not offended. When you get offended and when you leave. And I feel like so many of us men get easily offended.
Mm-hmm.
So easily offended. Like you said, because we work hard. We do, like you said, we do 1, 2, 3, 4, and we expect 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then God's like, how about you get nothing?
Yeah, no 5.
No
Yeah.
5. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What? You know,
Yeah.
and and that for me is, that's one of the things that I'm wrestling with myself, you know. Because like I said, I just recently, my dad went with the Lord. And, at the beginning of the year, I was praying, Lord, you a healer, you Jehovah Jireh,
That's right.
Jehovah,
It is.
you're a
That's right.
healer, you're Jehovah Rapha, like, I'm calling all his names, I'm praying, you know what I'm saying? And, but then the way that I wanted him to do it, you know, that wasn't his plan.
That's right.
And I remember one time in my prayer time, God was just, I felt God say, no, actually, I asked God the question, are you bringing my dad home with you?
Mm.
And I sensed him say yes.
Mm.
And I didn't know how to take that.
Mm.
But I still trusted him. Like, I didn't stop praying. I didn't stop seeking him, but in my own spirit, I felt like my dad was getting ready to go be with the Lord, And then when he did, still a tough thing because it wasn't the outcome that I wanted, but I knew that, like you said, he was healed.
Right.
He answered my prayer because I wanted God to heal my dad. You know what I'm saying? So God answered it in his way. But then at the back end of that, I'm like, well, then what am I going to do now?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he chilling. He's at the place where I want to be. Like, it was funny you talked about, just being with God. I
Yeah.
don't care about no streets of gold. I don't care about no mansions. I don't care about no. Yeah, those are nice. I'm gonna do my part. I'm gonna get a little something. But at the end of the day, like, people talk about, oh, we're gonna be married or we're gonna recognize. I was talking to somebody. I said, I don't care what
Right.
you look like. I don't see you.
Right.
I want to see Jesus. I want to see God. And so, like, to know that he's there, but then I'm on this side of eternity, still striving,
That's right.
to trust him to finish my race,
That's right.
faithfully,
Be faithful.
faithfully, but then at the same time, that the part that you brought up, that offense part, and I've had to go to him because I was like, Lord, I am offended with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm bad. You had me boo-hooing and crying and rolling through on the floor and speaking in tongues and all kinds of stuff. And then you say, yeah, I'm taking it. Okay, God,
Mm-hmm.
what's up? And so that's that tension though. That's that wrestling you said we have to do with God to continue to grow and develop into who God has created us to be. And I feel like men, we give up too easily when that breakthrough, that answer that we're seeking, that intimacy, that relationship he's desiring for us to have is right over, like you said, that place of where we didn't get what we deserve. Because he's like, will you continue to pursue me faithfully, hungrily, desperately, even when that doesn't happen the way you played out? Am I still your father?
That's right.
Because he's like, you're always going to be my child, regardless. But will you still seek me as a father? Nah, man, and like you said, you preach the whole sermon. I ain't gonna preach nothing else, bro. I ain't gonna preach nothing else, bro. And like I said, and I'm trying to I'm trying to figure out what, like, because I want to keep diving into that, but we can't keep diving into that. But I do wanna, I do wanna, I because, like I said, because your life has just been just a blessing, a testimony of just seeing God's grace, His mercy, and seeing Him truly be not only Father but Shepherd, and guiding you through the difficult seasons of your life to the point where you have no choice but to trust him.
That's right.
Like you've seen him move mountains, you've seen him do all kinds of crazy stuff of how he's provided,
Hmm.
how he's kept you, how he's protected you, how he's molded you, how he's anointed you, how he's blessed you, how he's opened doors.
That's right.
And it's just that same rhythm, because he's going to do what he says he's going to do, and he wants us to continue to trust him and be obedient in that. And so, as we get ready to just kind of shift and close a little bit, I'm going to ask you maybe like two questions, and then we go get up out
Yeah.
of here.
Go for it.
So, now that we're here, what are some new projects that you're working on musically, that we can maybe be on the lookout for? And then the last question, just what does a holistic man mean to you? How do you define it?
Yeah. Yeah, gotcha. And so when it comes to music, I just released my second full length album in December, called "The Flames Will Not Consume You."
Yes.
So that's out there, and I'm always creating, always making music and stuff, even if it never sees the light of day. I'm still always creating. This is part of who I am.
Right.
But I actually am planning on releasing new music here before the year is over, actually.
Okay. We got 3 months left. Let's go.
So we'll have probably another single, at least one,
Okay.
probably two, but at least one single, and then going into next year, we'll probably have two projects
Okay.
next year. At least one, aiming for two. And so we have a constant flow of music playing. Lord willing, we'll be able to actually execute that,
Okay.
and produce and release the music on a more rigid schedule than I have previously. But all of that is, hey, as faithfulness dictates,
Right.
that will
Because
happen.
life
You
be
know,
life.
that it does. It does not take any breaks. So that's the goal, because we do plan and have plans.
Okay. Right.
Card is subject to change, but that's the card. So
Yeah.
definitely more stuff soon. But my last album was 19 songs, compiled over a 6-year period.
Wow.
And
That's
so
intense.
it's plenty of music there, and it's not 19 2-minute songs. We got 10-minute songs up there. We got 5-minute songs, 4 minutes, 3 minutes,
Yeah.
the whole gambit on there. You can find a little bit of everything on it. And so definitely check it out. If you looking at the podcast right now, listening to the pod, check
Yeah.
it out.
Please check it out.
More music, more music on the way for sure.
Okay.
When it comes to just being a holistic man, I think for me, being a holistic man is primarily number one, being rooted and centered in Christ,
Mm,
and being connected to God as Father and Source.
mm,
What being a man should be. Like, he is the rubric, he dictates the boundaries of what it means to be a man for me. And
mm,
so being holistic starts with him.
mm,
What does he say I should be? How should I love? How should I serve and sacrifice? What should I give? Who should I be? And so it starts there.
mhm,
So from there, in my spirit, it goes out to my will and my emotions, and aligning my emotions and my mind and my thoughts to those things, and challenging myself to grow, and not be complacent, but being content, right? Not lustfully seeking everything that's out there, but what's for me is for me, and being empowered, to work with my hands to secure the things that God is placing in my realm of faithfulness. And so challenging myself mentally, you know,
mm.
having that rootedness and that ground, being grounded in faith, being and serving primarily my family, you know,
Yeah.
uh, wife and my kids, and then my outer family as well, and then into body of Christ, God's family,
Yeah.
and then ultimately the world. And so a holistic man, in my opinion, is rooted and anchored in God, and it kind of flows outward from there. In our character, intentions, our aspirations,
Mm,
emotion, consistency,
Yeah.
and being faithful through seasons, in our character, who we are, standing firm, not being thrown to and fro
Mm.
by the winds and waves of the day and every doctrine that's out here, but standing firm and being willing to acknowledge when we're weak, because then he's made strong.
Mm.
Because well done, my good and faithful servants. You said something earlier. You said not my good and strong servant.
Right.
Sometimes being faithful means just being weak and crying in your corner like you need to, and being able to identify that as the strength that you need for the season.
Mm.
Strength looks different in different seasons.
Yeah.
So be faithful. So the holistic person, the holistic man is a faithful one, and honest one, real one of who they are, what they're going through. Holistic man knows how to say, I don't know. I don't know, man. Like, I know you got 50 million questions. I got 50 million questions. Together, we 100 million in. So we, like, okay, I don't know, but I will challenge myself to obtain the knowledge that I can,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
so that I can grow further, in faith and in love. So it's always growing, you know what I mean? And being at peace with what you don't have, being at peace with what you don't know, even
Mm.
as you endeavor to challenge and grow,
Yeah.
being truly content. Uh, I think that being whole in yourself uh, means all of those things,
Mm.
a complete person, mind, body, and soul. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, truly, like, truly pursuing God means that to me.
That's dope, man. No, that's it. Mind, body, soul. One man under God.
That's right.
That's it. That's
That's
the
right.
holistic man. Man,
That's right.
man, Jeremiah, it's been a pleasure. You preached tonight, bro. You
Oh,
thank you. Thank you tonight, just for sharing your story, just sharing your testimony, sharing your heart, sharing who you are and who God has created you to be. And I'm just grateful for your pour, and I just know that someone's going to definitely be blessed by your story, by what you've poured out here tonight. So thank you for taking the time just to sit down and chat with me, man.
oh, thank you for having me, man. It's been a blast, brother. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Well, I'll talk to you a little bit later, man. But I'm gonna let you go.
Sounds good, man. Take
All
care,
right.
bro.
All right. Take care. Well, there y'all have it. My cousin Jeremiah Bligen. Y'all, he preached. He preached tonight. The key thing, if you remember anything from this podcast episode, was that being faithful in any season that you're in. That's what a holistic man is, and that's what Jeremiah brought to the table. So please listen. He has a new album out that just dropped in December. The flames will never consume you. It'll be down in the description below. I'm going to link it for you. Go listen to it. It's dope. And then, of course, I'm going to put more information for you to connect with him on social media, his website, to go get all his music. I'm telling you, all his music is fire. He's a faithful husband. He's a faithful man. He's a faithful father. And he's looking to continue on the journey that God has him for. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode tonight. Listen, be blessed, and stay holistic.
Holistic man, lift me high when I don't understand. Guide my steps with a gentle hand. God make me a holistic man.